Everybody, today is Sunday, the 28th of August, 2011. Let's take a look at the market, some ideas for the week ahead. We'll probably continue to see a lot of volatility, and this market right now is in this triangle. Could be maybe heading up towards the top end of the range that we've seen here the last month or so, or since the beginning of the month. We've got this first little level of potential resistance right in here, about 119. If we can get up through this prior support, which became resistance, then maybe we can see the market move up towards 122. Just because we have this triangle doesn't mean that that has to resolve itself the way the textbook says it's going to. We could see upside. We could see it break down. Truth is, you really don't know. I don't know. That's for sure. But we are seeing a little bit of encouraging signs down here. That is, we had the shakeout on Friday and the nice recovery where the market held on to those gains. But, declining 20, 50-day moving averages is still very difficult to trust. The semiconductors, if this group could get above maybe the 2880-ish area, then I think you could see a little bit of a rally in there. And a couple of stocks in the semiconductor group that look like maybe they could participate. And again, just for most of these long stocks, these are stocks that are in downtrends. They're broken. We're only looking at them for a day to 2 days at the most on the long side. Don't be thinking that you're finding the bottom in these things. If they don't scare you out, they'll wear you out. The weekly chart on Altera is still looking pretty ugly, but if we can get a movement, I think above last week's high, above 3650 or so, we have a decent place to put a stop in this, just below that 36 level. So it's not a lot of risk, and we could get some potential further upside. I think at least towards 37 and a half, maybe up towards $38 a share in Altera. We also have Silicon Laboratories, SLAB. Here's the real resistance in slab, up at about 34 and a dime or so, and looking at that 30-minute time frame, we can see that. But we are getting some higher lows in here, so we could look at this as an ascending triangle. The question is, would we want to buy it above 34, or perhaps above Friday's high? We take a little bit of it long, and then see how it responds at 34, and if it responds well, then to buy some more on a break past that 34 level. But I think that we could look at this thing on Monday near the 3350 level, that if it was to get up going through there, we wouldn't again have to take much risk. We could set our stop under this higher low right here, and then look to see if it can get past that 34.15 level, and maybe add a little bit to it, because if it could get above there, then it's got a little bit of daylight. Maybe they could squeeze it for another point or so. Alexion Pharmaceuticals, ALXN, still in a big uptrend on the weekly time frame. On the daily, we can see it's been holding near this 50-day moving average. The one thing that gets me a little bit concerned, well, here first let's just take a look at what it did. It broke past this resistance on Friday, and the one thing I was going to say that gets me a little bit concerned is it's just up from 50 to 55, so it's just run 10% here in the last few days. And here's the resistance that it broke, and kind of similar to what we were just outlining with the slab, that it's got this resistance up here, and Alexion broke its resistance. So maybe Alexion will need to pull back a little bit first. It had a nice tight consolidation, so it could get going in here. But again, it's up from 50 to 55, up 10% in the last week. So it's worth keeping an eye on, but be aware that it's not fresh momentum, that it could pull back a little bit more deeply after that 10% move, but I think it's still worth keeping an eye on. Golar LNG, GLNG is the symbol here. The weekly chart, you can see it's having some trouble. It's still above that 30-week moving average, but we go down to the daily time frame. We've got a declining 10, 20, and 50-day moving average. The 10-day moving average acted as resistance all week, and that tells me that there's sellers just above that, obviously. But we also saw that this prior support became resistance. We're back down to slash through the 5-day moving average, and I think maybe getting back below the lows, near 2970-ish. It's tough to say exactly what the level is to short, but maybe even below 30, and then stop up near 30.55 or 75 ish. But GLNG looks like it could be a good one to drop back down towards at least 28 bucks a share. And I think that even below that, you can see if it got some panicky action. So we have to have longs and shorts basically to be able to go to this week. I still think that ETFs are probably the easier way to gain short exposure in this market. That is leveraged ETFs that sometimes the stocks don't do what the rest of the market is doing, and it becomes frustrating to be short a stock and one that looks vulnerable, and the market's declining and not having the exposure. A strong stock obviously has been Hanson. We've been talking about this one for a while. It had a good week last week. It broke some resistance on some heavy volume. It pulled back on lighter volume relatively. On the 30-minute time frame, we can see that resistance at 82 was tested. It bounced nicely, going down to a 10-minute time frame now. We saw that large volatility, maybe getting above 85 and a half. This one could get going a little bit further. This was a nice little shakeout that from that failed breakdown. I think people who were trying to pick a top basically, if it could get going back above 85 and a half ish, that you could see Hanson continue to run, I think, north of 90 bucks a share. Mako, we were on this one on Friday, and some of you guys did take advantage nicely. It's still kind of neutral here on the daily time frame, but definitely improving, and it went exactly where it was supposed to go. That is above that 32, I think it was 32.05, but it got going where it was supposed to, and that prior resistance in here holding as support. So it's not extended. We've had some chop in here. After this choppy action, the stock made it through that resistance. That resistance held as support at 32. So I think a stop would be maybe 31.80ish or so. And Mako, could get going up towards 35 bucks a share or so. It's a strong stock. It trades good volume. It trades 1.3 million shares a day on average. So definitely keep an eye on that. Nuvasiv, we were talking about this one last week. It's a broken stock. It's a severely broken stock, and this is not trend following. This is bottom fishing. It's a much riskier type of play, but it's been down so much, and it's just kind of going sideways, flirting with that 5-day moving average, that it could be setting up for a knee-jerk short squeeze. I don't, in other words, the shorts are in control of this. This isn't something where the shorts are going to panic. Maybe the fresh shorts will, but the shorts are in control here. But if it got above this, this high from last week near about 2170, 2160 to 2170. This is the little band of resistance that's forming. If it can get above this level, then I think you're going to see a quick pop for maybe a point or so. I would expect that pop will fail. I don't think that it makes sense to try to buy and hold something like this. It might bounce more than 1 or 2 days, but it's destined to fail. I think any type of bounce in here, but it's worth a shot to give it a try if it can set up in a nice low risk way. Last stock we're going to look at is WCG. We looked at this one last week, if you remember. Maybe it was the week before, as a potential short breaking down over here. Well, it didn't break down, and now we're kind of, you look at it and say, well, it's made a higher low here on the daily chart. You could say on that 30-minute time frame, it's kind of creating this cup and handle or ascending triangle, but this is a clear level of resistance right here at about 44 and change, that if it's to push up through that level, it could maybe make a run to close this gap at about 48 bucks a share. So that's a 10% move. Now, it gapped lower, so there's some kind of problem with it, and it's difficult to trust because they gap lower because there's a problem and there's a big giant seller. This isn't just some individuals selling. This is a big institution saying, just get me out, I'm done with this stock. Make it, if it's messy, it's messy, I don't want it. But if it can get back into this range, it could make a run for that 50-day moving average. Looking at a 10-minute time frame, on Friday we had a gap down and then straight up. So you look at where we are in relation to the VWAP. The VWAP's down near 43. So what we need to see in order to buy this is not just a breakout. If it breaks out on Monday, I think only an idiot buys it on that because the stock is extended here. 3 points since Friday's lows. What we want to see is a pullback, maybe towards 43, and then a higher low and push higher. So buying it on that first break higher, if it's to occur from here from an extended level, it could go, but the odds aren't very good. I think the odds are greater for a breakout past that level, and then a pullback, and then to watch it after the pullback to see whether the buyers can quickly reestablish control is what we would be looking for. And it's going to be another treacherous week ahead, so just pace yourself and only trade the good ones when they reveal themselves. That'll do it. Thanks.